Meet the intrepid crew of the rogue trader vessel Emperor's Humor 2 as they face the horrors of the warp and void, bravely assembled for their next perilous mission. Lunch!
Howdy, howdy. Welcome to the Munitorum Breakroom. As a friendly reminder, this is your Munitorum mandated lunchtime, and I'm sitting here in the breakroom with, I have Beardo, I have Death, and I have Laughing Block. How you doing today, boys?
Hey, hey, hey.
Fine as always. Coming from Creed. Yes.
I don't know how you eat Korps starch in a gas mask, but you learn all sorts of interesting things in the break room. Speaking of,
I'm taking it off.
So speaking of what we're going to cover, what we're really looking at covering is something that I think affects all of us. Doesn't matter what game you play, if you're awesome and you play things like Gaslands or Conflict 47, if you haven't seen the light yet and you play 40K, or even if you play D&D, we're going to talk about tabletop etiquette. All right, so what is everyone's ultimate horror story that they've come across? Where has it been like the stinky kid? Has it been like the Nurgle spawn child next to you? Has it been the guy who just like ate a whole package of munchies and then licked his fingers and picked up your miniature that you had commissioned to paint?
That one has not happened to me, thankfully.
Well, what has happened to you, Block?
Okay, yeah, I have a few. We were just talking about this earlier. The chat, though, the viewers do not know this. But, yeah, I've kind of been victim of people manhandling my models, like just randos coming up and just like, ooh, what's this? And just touching my stuff without permission. As someone who takes pride in their painting, I appreciate people like taking the effort to be like, oh, this is cool, but like, don't touch my fucking models without asking me. It's just general table etiquette. Just in general, like, don't do a lot of things without asking people first and having general consent, especially if it's like touching something that they put hours into painting, especially if it's something big that if you drop it will fucking explode, like my Bane sword. That
so are you still talking about models, or are you talking about like cosplayers?
That too. I haven't cosplayed, but like I've heard that's an epidemic as well. Like, but yeah, just general like etiquette. Just don't generally shit without people's consent. Like, don't don't be weird and take pictures of people's tables without asking them, or like just ask as a rule of thumb. Like, oh hey, do you mind if I look at this, or do you mind if I watch your guys' game? Like, that's another thing. Like, too, that people I'll see often people do. But one of the biggest horror stories for me, and this is actually a friend of mine, he picked up like one of my right out of my hand, like one of my first models I ever painted. It was a Space Marine, and he fucking snapped it, like the arms off. Like, he was like, oh, sorry, and like internally I was seething, but like, you know, there was other people around, so I didn't want to fucking explode. But like that, like stuff like that is just like, especially like, I mean, you don't know how long someone put like time into painting something. Like, don't touch people's shit without asking, please.
That's a great rule of thumb for life in general. Ask before you do something. If it's not yours, it's not yours to decide.
It should be common sense, but it's not for an unfortunate amount of people, and this has happened to me. I probably had well over like 24 times people over the last few years have like picked up my models without asking me, like, and every single time it irks me.
Now, personally, I'm not one that cares a lot about somebody picking up a model, mostly because when I'm doing my modeling, I know it's a problem, so. Especially stuff like, say, like a Storm Surge. My Storm Surge, I kit bashed his feet. So he's got, like, metal pins going through a secondary ankle. And he is not going to break. I put the time in to make sure that, oh, yeah, this is not just going to shatter. I mean, if you drop it, it's going to break. But, and, you know, I'm just not the kind of guy that cares. But you can't assume that everybody is going to be like me, which I think I'm kind of the outlier there. Don't assume that you can just go grab somebody's stuff. I mean, these are obviously prized possessions and a labor of love. I mean, if a guy's playing with, you know, just like dunk the thing into unthinned paint or whatever, still, don't just go up and grab somebody's models, especially if it's in game.
Yeah, you don't know where that model was. I'd be pissed.
Exactly.
That fortunately has never happened to me. Usually, like when it's randos, they'll come up and pick up a model that's like already out of play, or it's on the side, or we're in the middle of setting up a game, kind of thing.
I've seen where there was like a kid in the game store, and I wasn't playing, but I was just kind of hanging out, buying some stuff, watching. And the kid ran up and was like, "Oh, what are these?" And was like picking up models and stuff. And the dudes were really nice, but you could tell that they were just like internally vibrating, trying not to blow up on the kid.
Well, where was the crotch goblin's owner? Like, did the parent not come in with the child?
Apparently not. I never saw, like, the kid just kind of like ran in and then ran out. He was in there, like, yeah, I guess he figured out that, oh, I just did something stupid and left. But I don't know. I don't know if they were like at the counter buying something or something like that, but I mean, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, that's a big thing to me. Children don't touch my models. Like that's a big like no.
Dude,
no
kids,
one under the age.
They don't
of...
understand either. They'll steal like, oh, it's just a small model, it doesn't matter. You know, but if you're playing like Grey Knight, that's probably a quarter of your army.
Well, more so custodies. Like Grey Knights nowadays, they actually kind of play. Like I hate to be the but weirdly enough, like Grey Knights, they're like weirdly almost like Horde style Marines. I don't like how they play on tabletop, like in terms of like how many, like I feel like they should be more in line with Custodies in terms of like their toughness and like generally what they do, but instead of like they should, but they're like as elite as Custodies, but they're psychic focused. But that's not how they play. They play very like Horde style Marine, and it just doesn't fit them very well, I don't think.
Yeah, they're like supposed to be the super duper Space Marine, but they play like Black Templars.
Yeah, literally, they play like Horde Marine. Like they play Silver Tide basically, but Marine. It's weird. Like I'm not a huge fan personally, but it is what it is. Especially like I've always liked Custodies more, but as time goes on, I've grown more and more love for Grey Knights, particularly because of their origins from the Horus Heresy. Like after you hear the lore for like how for the Knights Errant and how the Grey Knights got started, it's hard not to like them. But going back on topic, like, yeah, anyone under the age of, like, 16 is not going to touch my models. Just period, end of story, not going to happen. Like, and if it does, I'm going to have some words to say. Like,
well, see, it sounds angry, but it's not, because it makes sense, because if I handled one of Death's models and I broke it, I would try and replace that model. Now, if I had to buy a whole box, that's fine. I end up breaking that dude's model, I'm going to pay to replace it. If he's chilled, he just wants me to buy him lunch or buy something else or do something, that's cool. We can meet in the middle. But a child, you can't expect a child to pay for what he broke. So that's why I wouldn't let a child touch my model, because they don't understand the cost. They have no concept of the cost. And plus, they can also steal it. So it's just not a good idea. That's why I like a lot of the war games places that I go to, all the like war game tables are actually like crazy high. I'm talking like it's almost like chest level and I'm like 6'1", you know, so it's really cool because you either sit on a high stool that prevents kids from just walking by and picking stuff off the table because they literally can't even reach. It keeps them on their Magic the Gathering, you know, like Pigpen style store.
Yeah, and like, you know, speaking of Pigpen, like transitioning into oh boy, the curse of Nurgle. It is strong in this hobby, and especially Magic the Gathering. And what do I mean by the curse of Nurgle, some may ask? Like, people fucking stink, dude. People stink. Like, shower before you come to your local hobby store, or before you just go out in general. Like, just like in public, you should probably shower. At the very fucking least, deodorant. Preferably both. Brush your teeth at least like once a week, for God's sakes. Like, so many times going into the hobby store, like, people I've seen, like, normies like come in and be like, oh, what's this, or they're like a little curious, and then they head towards the Magic tables, and you can just see their face. Like, you can see as the smell hits them, as they're just like, nope, I'm not coming back to this store. It's embarrassing almost, like, as a hobbyist too. Like,
GW shouldn't smell like a gym.
So I had a stinky troop once. Everyone gets them, you know. One of my troops ended up being one of those stinky troops. So the first thing you check is, do they know how to do laundry? You know, like, okay, cool, you've learned how to do laundry. You know, they know how to basically went through basic training. So then you talk to them. So this, and it was a girl, surprisingly. This girl's story was she just smelled. She didn't know if it was her diet or what. She just had a very distinct, just god-awful smell. I'm telling you, without being insensitive, because like I said, I honestly cared for my troop. I really did. They were a good troop, but nobody could figure it out. At the same point in time, nobody wanted them in a Humvee, so they always didn't get a post in a vehicle. They always got posted outside, which in the winter is terrible. So I wanted to do right by my troop. So what we figured out, this is for our people out there who have this issue, don't want to talk about it, that's fine. A very quick, easy, fast solution is, if you have that thing where no matter how much you wash your clothes appropriately, no matter how much you bathe, you just have a distinct smell. It could be from a diet, it could be from anything. Dryer sheets. Get some dryer sheets and stick them in your pockets. Sounds crazy. Stick them in the pockets of your pants. If you have a pocket in your shirt, stick it in there too, because the more you sweat, all that heat and compression of being indoors with people, just like a heat in the dryer, it'll just release that fabric smell from that dryer sheet. So if you have that issue, or if you're going to a con and you know it's going to smell, you know there's no AC, you already put on deodorant, dryer sheets. Just pack your pockets with dryer sheets.
I've actually heard that before. Yeah, that's good advice. Or also, you know, shower, deodorant.
I'm telling you, man, for some people,
basic etiquette.
It'll surprise you. There's some people that does not work. I didn't believe it either at first, but you know, it's true.
No, I know what you mean. I have a friend actually that's like that too. But that's mostly just because he's bigger, like, and he just kind of naturally like just sweats a lot, like, and it just gets it is nothing to do with anyone here. It is just another friend. They also do play Warhammer, but it's more so just like, just sweat gets caught in the rolls, you know, like, that's just how it be sometimes. Like,
I mean, it's a thing.
Some people just have a musk.
As a big man, I can confirm. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. That's something that, like, for somebody like me, I had to be really self-aware about, of course. And in the summertime, man, when I'm outside working or something, or it's really hot, this smells like bacon cooking, you know, just it's bad. But there are ways to, like, get around that. One, I mean, deodorant, it's, you know, it's a magical thing. It works. Shower in the summer, shower often, you know. Like, in the summertime, especially if I'm working outside, I shower twice a day. And that's one way, like, I keep my bed clean, because I'll shower before I go to bed, and then I shower when I get up. Because, you know, if I sweat in the middle of the night, then I don't want to smell bad in the day, like, daytime. But that way, too, I mean, you keep your areas clean, you know, keep your... The cleanliness factor is a thing. And I think a lot of the time, like, it's... Tabletop gaming is a place for guys, and I'm not just saying guys, but we could be honest, it's mostly guys that just don't really, they don't have great habits, you know, or there's a tendency for, like, social skills to be slightly underdeveloped, and this is their place. This is what they do, you know. And there's a lot of creators out there that would call those guys like neckbeards and whatnot. I don't really, as a man with a beard that goes to his neck, I don't really think that way. It's just the social skills might not be there, and it's hard to talk to somebody in your gaming group about that. I mean, you gotta kind of be close to them, and you gotta approach it really carefully, because you don't want to offend somebody if it's not really like what Tiki was saying. I mean, could not be their fault. I mean, it's just a thing, and you don't want to like bring up a sore subject, but at the same time, I mean,
Yeah, I was just about to say that, like, most of the people that smell, you get nose blind to that kind of stuff, even to your own rank at some point. Like, I was a teenager, I know how it is. Like, you just don't realize how bad you smell. Like, and 90% of those people, they don't want to smell bad, and they don't know that they smell bad. And like, honestly, if like they found out after the fact, they would have rather have just had people say like, hey, like, just pull them aside and just be like, hey, dude, you kind of reek. Do you mind like just like going, do you have anything in your car or anything? Like, do you have like or just letting them know as just a courtesy. Like, it's awkward, yeah, but like, honestly, it's better for them. It's better for everyone else in the room. Like, do you want them to just be embarrassed for the rest of the day? And because most likely they probably don't even know that they smell that bad. Like, it's better. It's better that they know and just rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like if your fly was down. You know, clearly I'm not walking around. You know.
Yeah,
So
I'm one of those guys.
So when someone tells me, as long as you're doing a dick way, if someone's like across the room, like, "Hey, nice dick," I'm like, "Oh shit, thanks, man. I wish you would have." Like,
yeah,
that's something.
Like,
hey,
that's
dude,
something.
you know, your fly's down. Be like, "Oh shit, thanks, man." Be like, "Hey, dude, I'm not trying to be a dick or anything." I was like, "But I don't know if you worked out right before you came here, but man, you're ripe." and like, don't be a dick, but also don't be like super nice about it either. Just be like, "Hey, man, I'm not sure if you knew or not, you know, but hey, this."
Yeah, I mean, I labor under the belief that you can say anything to anybody as long as you say it the right way. So, and I've been that guy where, you know, I didn't know, you know, especially like in my late teens, like in college and stuff, when I was, you know, I'd be out and going to the gym and stuff like that. And like, you know, laundry facilities were money, which I didn't have. And like my gym bag, I always was like, I kept dryer sheets in my gym bag and stuff like that, but it was like, I didn't notice that it smelled. And one of my buddies said, "Hey man, you got a dead body in here or something? I mean, what's going on?" And it was mortifying, but at the same time it needed to happen because I didn't know. I was nose blind to it. And from then on, like, as somebody that has this problem, I keep like a travel stick of deodorant in my bag, and I keep like a couple of different like colognes or body sprays, that kind of thing. And if I run across somebody that is kind of dealing with the same situation, I'll pull them aside and say, "Hey, listen, you know, you're carrying a little bit of odor. If, you know, I'm not trying to offend or anything. It's just like, you know, I've been there. I'm that guy. So here's this little travel stick of deodorant, or, you know, I've got this body spray. You know, step outside, grab a hit of that.
I ain't afraid of no cooties. Have at it, brother.
I don't care. Like, me and my bandmates, like, this is kind of gross, but like we end up sharing deodorant when we're out on, like, when we're setting up, because it's really hot and sweaty, right? When you're setting up,
you gotta do shit. You gotta do what you gotta do.
Sounds like communism. I don't share shit.
Yeah, buddy.
But yeah, like, so one of us will make sure. I mean, generally we've all, like, because we're all trying to take care of the other guys, we'll all have like the deodorant and the body spray and cologne and all that stuff, and air fresheners in the car when we're doing like a long drive, that kind of thing. But you know, there's times that you forget, and you're like, "Oh shit, I didn't bring my deodorant or whatever," and the comfort level with the people that you're hanging out with is a big thing there too. Because, I mean, you know, with me and my bandmates, we've all been friends for, you know, 10 plus years. So it's whatever, you know, we don't care. But like, say a new guy walks into the game store and he's wanting to play some games, but the man reeks to high heaven. He smells like a great unclean one. Well, you have to establish, like, the friendly, hey, you know, we're not assholes kind of environment to begin with, and you can say, hey, listen, you know, here's this mini stick of deodorant and the bathroom's over there. But I feel like that most of the time people will, yeah, they're going to be offended. You know, that's not something that you can just talk about. And
Offended is not really the word. I would say they're going to be mortified.
Yeah, they can either be offended or they can be embarrassed and get defensive and all that.
But they're probably like after about a minute, they'll probably be like, in their minds, they'll be like, "Oh, I'm so glad that guy told me."
Right.
Yeah,
right.
now you appreciate.
If I'm not mistaken, these are, and again, I hate always sound like the asshole here, but they're grown adults, right? It's not like you're going to their house and then smelling them. Like, they left their domicile and came to this place where people meet to play a tabletop game. By walking through that door, they made a commitment like, hey, I'm out in public. I'm now going to be in this confined space with these strangers in my condition and everything that I bring with me. Like, they knowingly entered into that agreement. So I feel it's fair game. As long as you're not being like a complete dick and embarrassing them on purpose, you know, as long as you pull them to the side, that's fine. But I think it's fair game to engage them on that because they entered that gaming store. Now, you can't just say it to them in their house or on the street, and that's kind of weird. But they entered that gaming thing. So then I think it's fair game because they brought it to you. You didn't bring it to them.
Yeah, I mean, they're subjecting you to it, so.
Now, there are other etiquettes that I don't think we as a hobby really discuss enough, like emphasizing the importance of shaking your opponent's hand, and even if it wasn't a good game, saying good game. Like, it's such a small thing, but like that basic like etiquette of respect and putting your pride aside, and saying like, you know, it sucks that I lost, but you know what, good game, man. Like you played well, or like, you know, that's a thing that I think is starting to, like, I've noticed that it's kind of been I've usually had to be the one, and I'm the socially awkward one to initiate that kind of engagement more and more. And I think that I shouldn't have to. That's something that should be hobby common sense, but I don't think people talk about it enough, how important it is to say good game, and just put your pride aside and just be grateful to play that you're there playing Warhammer, and this person took their time to play with you. Like it's such a small thing, but I think it's important.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you have to. And we say it a lot, the gentleman's agreement. You act with humility whether you win or you lose. Don't be a sore loser or a dick winner. You know, I mean, you may have tabled this guy on turn 1, or you may have been tabled on turn 1. But when you're saying good game, it's not necessarily saying that this was a good game. It's kind of like, you know, Gandalf saying, and Gandalf and Bilbo.
It's like saying thanks for playing with me, basically.
Right. It's you played well. This was, you know, something. It's the good morning with Bilbo and Gandalf. Is it a good morning, or is it, you know, is the morning good, or is it a morning to be good on? Well, it doesn't matter. Like, that person may have given you a serious challenge, or they may have, like, you know, they may have like failed gracefully. That's good. You're respecting the person, not necessarily the game.
And let's be honest real quick. If you were to hide everything you had and trick your opponent, there's a chance you'll probably win. Is that how real tactics are? Yes, it's been written since Sun Tzu and everything else. You know, deception is generally the building block of true warfare. Now, with that being said, the exception of geniuses are cult who get their cool little rules where they can hide stuff, or at least they used to. Up until that, any other wargaming, be upfront and honest in the beginning. Be like, hey, I'm so-and-so. Hey, I'm new. Be like, hey, I'm so-and-so. I'm a stickler for the rules, and I like to see your dice rolls. Or, oh, hey, I'm going to make sure I tell you all my intentions before I move. Oh, hey, I'm trying to learn the rules, so hold me to them. There's going to be no takebacks. Any mistake we make, we're going to leave on the field. Like, be upfront and honest with this person at the very beginning. That way, because I've heard it in Mordian's stories, I've heard it in everybody else's stories. We're like, yeah, you know, halfway, and then he said this, and I didn't know what to do. You set those rules in advance You don't have to be mean about it, but you're like, hey, is that cool with you? Like, yeah, that sounds great. Okay, cool, let's play. If they're like, no, I don't really like that, then you can kind of go back and forth on what kind of game you want to have, but state what you're looking for in the very beginning. That way, when you're like hour 2 or 3 into it, you can't be upset.
Then you give each other the opportunity to agree or disagree.
Of course, yeah, that's the whole point. If they're like, well, I like using, I don't want to use your dice tray, or I don't want to use your dice tower because it'll ruin my nice dice. I'm just gonna roll mine on a tray. I'm like, oh, that's perfectly fine. Yeah, I just like, see, I've had a bad experience in the past. Oh yeah, no problem. Yeah, obviously meet in the middle and basically agree upon these soft rules because we already know the hard rules are in the book. So agree upon the soft rules before you ever roll a dice and get that game started. I think a lot of people will appreciate that in the forerun.
Yeah, it's that 10-second session 0.
That's exactly what it is, because you also get a good feel for your opponent. They start getting all squirmy, like when you ask for the rules, they start looking all around, you're like, it's going to be one. Because here's the other thing, too. You don't have to play. Be like, you know what, man? Be like, I'm just not feeling it. You come up with whatever excuse you want. I'll just be honest. Be like, look, man, I'm just not feeling it. I'm just going to pack up my models. I'm sorry, buddy. And just walk off. If you get that weird feeling, you don't have to play. And I hold that reason. The same thing goes into D&T. Or the same thing when I talk about D&D. You never have to play, else people feel like I was forced to do this stuff. You're a grown-ass adult. No one forced you to do shit. Like, you showed up to the tabletop. You showed up with your stuff. We're going to have fun. I was like, but no one's forcing you. You can walk away at any time. You're never trapped. No one's holding your models hostage. There's no guns anywhere. Real ones anyways. I was like, you're perfectly fine to just walk away. That is always an option. I feel like a lot of people always feel like they're sucked in. Like, we're not playing for keeps. We're not paying for, like, pink slips on armies. You can always just take your models and leave at any time.
I mean, there's some circumstances, maybe in a tournament or something that you really care about that, you wouldn't just want to walk away. But even then, I mean, what is more important, having an honest game or taking if you have to, like, forfeit a game if somebody's cheating, I mean, it doesn't make sense to me where people are like, well, I have to play out the game. I mean, what's really riding on this?
Yeah, even a tournament setting, I think Warren Gordon talked about where him and another opponent just agree, he's like, we're tired, let's just have a duel out in the middle, winner takes all. I'd be like, I'm totally down for that. That sounds awesome. Like, if I showed up totally expecting to play one type of game, some guy's like, hey man, I'm just not feeling it. Like, let's just do kill points and we'll just like line up and just attack each other. I'm like, hey, sure, that sounds awesome. Why not? Or I could be like, that's not the game I was looking for. Let me do something different.
Yeah, I mean, play it out fast. It gives me time to get lunch before the next one.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Though this one is riding a very fine line. Is respect you and your opponent's time. Like, if you know that you're just gonna gish gallop like through their stuff, or vice versa, just be like, for example, like I was another game where where my dudes were getting steamrolled by Grey Knights in this one squad, and this guy wanted to shoot him off the board. I'm like, dude, that's gonna take you like 20 minutes to roll all those dice. That squad's not gonna fucking live. Like, there's mathematically, it's like nearly impossible. Let's just skip over it. Like it's respecting my time and it's respecting my opponent's time. Like, and even I know it's fun to go for the kill shot. Like, oh, I want to like play this out, but just for convenience sake, sometimes just put your pride aside to be like, you know what, dude, I think I'm gonna steamroll through that model. Here's like doing the math in my head, it's so low, and ask them legitimately, do you want to play it out with this squad? Do you want me to actually go roll the dice, or do you just want to take that squad off the board? Although in a tournament setting, this is I probably wouldn't do that, because it comes off as very like you're trying to like game for advantage. This is something very much to like ride a very fine line on, but like it is an etiquette to just like to respect your opponent's time.
And when you go into this situation, I mean, you need to say, hey, listen, I'm not trying to get anything by you. It's like the math is saying that this is not going to go well for that model. Do you want to roll it out? Do you want to play it out? Or even like if you're, when you get to turn 3, and most like seasoned players will know, hey, this is how this is going to go around turn 3. And you can say, do we want to talk this out, want to roll it out, or do you want to play out the full last 2 turns? And there's nothing wrong with saying that. I mean, there's no. A lot of people.
I'll fight you to the death. Like I said, I'll use all the time that we have. You know, I will fight to the last model. I'm the same way in chess. I don't capitulate for shit. I will fight you on every single beach and every single hilltop. But as long as I have a unit left standing until that guy declares time, I'm gonna fight you the whole time.
And that's a totally fair perspective. Like, that's fine. But my thing with that is like, I don't, if I know my squad is just, or my unit is gonna fucking just get obliterated, I don't want to sit there for, and most people probably would feel this way too. I don't want to sit there for 20 minutes with my thumb up my ass, like just waiting for my turn to start, like, or him to move on to the next model, like set of models to shoot at. Like, I want to play too, like, and that's another.
Why you play bolt action.
Yeah, and that's another general problem with 40K as a game as a whole is like, I think after 10th edition, Games Workshop really needs to examine like 40K as a game, like in terms of like how much time it takes and like what both players are doing during the game, and be like, do we want to do this like this player goes and then this player goes, or do we want to move towards like making this a more engaging like reactive style in game, and lean more towards heresy? And this could be more of a move over the course of an edition or two. Like, they could go soft like how heresy does it, and then like in 12th edition move into like more it being fully reactive, like how bolt action is.
Or you're like Age of Sigmar.
But Games Workshop is gonna have to. They're gonna have to like make that choice at some point, and who knows? Maybe they already have made that choice. But personally, I think the game, like 40K, if it want like longevity wise, like for players to stick around, I think, and just for the sake of time, I think Games Workshop needs to move towards like making the game more engaging and reactive for both players.
Yeah, that's why I left in 8th. Like I couldn't stand that. Like, yeah, I'd set up all my units out and I went to a dice roll on who got to go first. And like I said, in a small game, I wouldn't mind, but I know everyone shits on your top, buddy. I'm sorry. It's low-hanging fruit. You get all these guys who just move up and just start shooting. Next thing you know, half your models are gone before you even got a chance to move them. And going for the price that these models are, how much time it takes to make them, I kit bashed all mine. You know, I'll get into the painting. I'm not very good at painting, but still, they were painted. You know, I was like, I never even got to use them. You're just like, oh my god, this is like.
It's heartbreaking, dude. It's heartbreaking.
Because even when you're on the other side, like I've been on a side where I'm not gonna lie, I was in a position where I maneuvered well, and my air wing in 7th edition, you know, for those that are listening, it was I think it was ultimately 3 Valks, 2 Vendettas, and a Vulture. You know, I got them on the tabletop, I got them in formation, and they were just absolutely raining piss. And I felt bad because I was just deleting models, and to the point where I just kept apologizing. I think that made it worse. Like, dude, I'm really sorry. You know, like, it's like they hit. I was like, yeah, they're in formation, so they get to reroll their ones to hit. Like, I'm sorry, buddy. Like, oh man, that hurts. Like, you even feel like a dick too. So that's why I like games like Bolt Action Coming Force, where you go back and forth. You don't get to completely sweep it. Or I say that going back to our other cheating episode, that is something in Bolt Action. Some people will purposely have deformed dice, and when they put their hand in the bag, they'll feel around for their dice and they'll pull their dice out. That is a thing. You got to watch for that. You don't hold the dice bag. You stick a hand in quick. You grab a die and you bring it out. You don't stick your hand in there and feel around for dice.
Yeah, like if I was GW, what I would do is I would essentially have it so like one player like moves a model, another player moves a model, and like we go through each phase of the game, and like similar to how it is in Bolt Action, and kind of mix it with Heresy to where like I would actually get rid of stratagems as they are now and change them to like reactions. So like when your opponent is in a certain range, I love the 10th edition rules for Overwatch. I love them. Even before and after the changes with line of sight, like I like both versions. I could take it or leave it either way. Like I understand why people didn't like the not being able to shoot it, being able to start Overwatch with something that you can't see. Like I totally get it, but like I really like the 10th edition Overwatch rules because it feels like a step in the right direction. Because I think this is how all stratagems should be. They should all be like Overwatch, like because it allows you to engage with its engagement between both players. Both players are doing something. And what I would probably do is like just reserve CP, like just for reactions, or maybe even get rid of CP as we know it, and have it so that so it's more fair, so that each turn, each player has a certain number of reactions they're allowed to do, and that adds to another aspect of the strategy, because you know you can keep track of how many reactions your opponent has available to them that they're able to employ, but you have no idea when or how they're going to deploy them. And I would get rid of army-specific stratagems just for simplicity and getting rid of rules bloat. And I would go for like a set of like 12 to 18 core reactions that everyone has available to them.
I mean, that sounds like a solid plan.
So as far as the tabletop, we covered cleanliness and stuff like that. Let's tackle the easy one. What about clothing? Now, I'm not saying this needs to be like a highfalutin society where you walk in with like a cane and a three-piece suit. But do you think there's any like clothing requirements other than just being like properly attired? I'd say like nothing like totally loose. I know goth isn't really a thing anymore, but I just imagine kids like Jinko jeans and like long sleeve shirts just like knocking off models left and right. But
yeah,
how do you guys feel about the jerseys?
I only appear to play tabletop in full Gravis armor.
Honestly, like as long as it doesn't like hinder the person's ability to play, or it's like a problem for models, like I don't care what people wear, as long as it's like not like, you know, make sure you're not wearing a thong, and like, you know, just wear normal people clothes, and just like, you know, maybe take your coat off, like that's something I'm not too picky on, but there is an etiquette aspect there that I agree with you on, Tiki.
I mean, stay within the legal bounds. I mean, wear a shirt. You know, make sure that your ass is covered effectively.
You know, wear shoes.
Well, back to the curse of Nurgle. I found that shoes are often a problem. Like that's sometimes that's where the stank is coming from, is shoes. So I'm even less careful about shoes. I mean, you know, just don't wear something like, I would say take your coat off, and if it's hot in there and somebody's wearing a coat, then maybe look in their sleeves, because they may have a die that you like, a loaded dice that they're swapping out or something. But other than that, just be respectful of the place that you are and of the other player. I mean, don't go in full Nazi regalia, maybe. Other than that, the clothing, I think that also ties into like the cleanliness aspect of it. So it's like, make sure that your clothes have been washed. At least, you know, this is maybe the first or second time that you've worn them since they're washed. It's like a pair of jeans or something. But, you know, make sure that you're not just stanking up the place, and that you're appropriate.
So with that, what about the actual armies and models themselves? So we won't get into proxies, because I think proxies are a whole other thing. For this one, we won't cover tournament. This is just you and a buddy meeting at a friendly local gaming store. You know, like, what do you expect their army is going to look like?
I expect it to be to at least be like if they're a new person, it's okay if their models are hell if their whole army is unpainted. I don't really care that much. But for a player that I know is more experienced, I expect there to be a bit of paint on there. Like you can have maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3 units that are unpainted. I'll let that fly and you can use them as proxies. But like other than that, I'm like, if your whole army, if I know you're an experienced player and your whole army is unpainted, I'm gonna look at you. I'm gonna give you the stank eye. Like, really? Like, because there is an aspect to the hobby, like, and a bit of like immersion, especially for like casual games. Like, unless you're like trying to test out an army with a friend at like a friend's place. But if you're in public, I would say if you have the ability, bring painted models. Like if you have the ability to bring, if you have the ability to field painted models.
And they don't have to be like Golden Demon level. Just be battle ready. I mean, it's 3 colors. Doesn't matter.
Ooh, okay. As someone who's terrible at painting and doesn't care, explain what battle ready is.
So battle ready is like to play GW battle ready. There has to be 3 colors on the model, and it has to be quote unquote based. And basing can be as little as making sure like the rim of the base is painted black or green, goblin green, whatever. I mean, you don't have to do like an elaborate base or anything. I prefer to, but it's just minimum 3 colors, as I understand it.
All right, because like I said, I literally hit it with a flat primer. I'll hit it a second time with a flat primer, and then usually my primer, like for my IJA, my Japanese infantry, my primer is khaki, you know, because that covers already all their uniforms. Then I go in, and I'll make sure to paint all the, I paint everything, like the boots, the sheath, all the cloth equipment, like everything gets its own colored paint, but I just use regular base paint. You know, like I'll do a little bit of like dry brushing about as advanced as I go, and their face and hands just gets hit with like flesh tone, and that's it.
That's battle ready.
Yeah, they get pushed up the door.
That's battle ready. Like I would say, like prime with black.
Their
like
base, I just paint green
Zenithal or dry brush with white, and then like add a couple base colors. Bam, you gotta like that's what I would qualify as a painted model. Like honestly, like not just black and white.
Cut this out, but I'll send you pictures of my army.
Unless it's like a ghost army, like unless it's like thematic and it's like a ghost army. Then I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Like I don't care.
Yeah, so I base everything in flat black, and then do airbrush zenithal, which I mean I'm a little bit bougie with the airbrush, but you can dry brush it, and then use contrast paint. I mean that does, it's almost a cheat, but not really.
Slap chop is a great way to like paint battle ready models. Like I know a lot of people like have a lot of hate for the slap chop method of painting, and like very specific way, like there's a little bit of a paintist elitism that's been going on in the hobby, but dude, like whatever it takes to get stuff like battle ready, and if painting isn't really the thing you enjoy most about the hobby, you care more about playing, it really does not matter that much. Like at the end
all
of
right
the
so
day.
look at those 2 pictures. So those are it's actually from the game with that cheater I covered in the other episode. Those are my smoke grenades. I painted the purple smoke grenades. But those are my models. So that's literally, I think, about as bare bones basic as you can get. For the base, it's just flat green with some of that little like...
Yeah, honestly, I would say that's above... that's like tabletop standard, if not like slightly above tabletop standard. Like that I would accept. Like that's more than fine.
So
the fact you have the green base with the green tufts on it is like that's a fine base. I don't care.
Yeah, you guys can see the picture of the video. As you can tell, I'm not very good, and they pass like the 1 to 3 foot rule when you hold them away and look at them. You bring them up close, you can be like, ooh. But they're literally just supposed to be for the tabletop. Same thing with the tank. The tank does have at least 3 colors on it, but it's like nothing fancy. And that's the other thing too. You got to be careful with bolt action. We call them rivet counters. I haven't come across one yet because I only play social stuff. Like I'm a big social guy, but some people, they're gonna want you to be historically accurate. That's why I like Conflict 47 myself, because I don't play by those rules. Where they'll be like, oh, actually, Stuarts in the Pacific had this paint scheme. You know, I went with a paint scheme that I pulled off an A6M0. It was kind of a cool tiger stripe. I was like, I'm going to try and go for that tiger stripe thing my whole arm.
There's a certain level of immersion when it comes to hobby etiquette, and like as long as the models are painted, they could be painted whatever. Like, as long as they look generally thematic with what they're supposed to be, I do not give a shit. Like, and I don't think really most people should give a shit. Like, that to me is heresy. Being like, well, like being like, I'm like, dude, it's a game. There's a certain level of suspension of disbelief. Just immerse yourself. Does not matter. It's fine. It's not literally like it's not gonna be perfect. I'm certain that like you see this terrain we're playing with. I'm sure this fucking foliage probably wasn't in this specific like area. Like it does not matter. Like you have to have a certain level of suspension of disbelief. It's like those people that like all they do, like they can't watch or like any TV shows or movies because they just tear apart like everything that they and dissect everything that they watch, and like those plants shit like wouldn't be in that place, or like they're on an alien planet, why do they have ferns? And I'm like, dude, just a slight suspension of disbelief would do you and everyone else around you a service.
Speaking of alien, your Tyranids look great, Beardo. Hopefully you put those in the video as well.
Thank you.
So to get into that, and that's why I want to show you guys my models, because I am not telling you right now, no golden demon will ever darken my doorstep. I'm definitely not going to win any of that kind of stuff. But the reason why I say that is I also don't like playing against gray miniatures, because a lot of times I also build a lot of terrain. I do a lot of terrain building. Me and Beardo have talked a lot about this. You know, I build a lot of terrain, and when I run my own events, I bring my own terrain. Sometimes it's painted, sometimes it's not. You know, what do you want? But what I don't like is, especially in competitive wargaming, I don't like the ability to people bring in gray models, and this is why, because it's an entryway. If they don't have to paint their models, they're much more likely to do that whole meta cycle thing with the codex creeps. You know, where if they're like, oh, if I don't really have to paint my models, it's just a friendly game, they're going to bring a whole bunch of gray models and painted, and they're going to be like, oh, that's not really this guy, he's standing in for that guy. Because what you, like I said, that's why you got to be kind of firm in the beginning, because once you let that one foot in the door, they're going to start changing more stuff and more stuff and more stuff. So that's why I'm a fan. I've always thought, you know, I've always liked that whole idea where you need at least 3 colors. I didn't really heard that yet. They had to be base. Like, I get why they have to be base, but I've never really been a big stickler for that. I'm like, you know, I don't consider that part of the model, because some bases are huge, and depends on what you base it on. You could just have an artillery gun and 2 infantry, but if you put it all on one big diorama style base, it's a shit ton you gotta paint.
I don't think it's like
it's not like you have
basing is like the easiest thing in the world, because what I do with like a lot of my bases is literally just like black. I'll just slap it with black primer and then just Zenithal white on it. It looks like a battlefield. Like that to me is like more than an acceptable base. I do not worry that much about basing, but like it's not that hard. Like literally glue, just a little bit of wood glue,
PVA glue.
like PVA glue, like bam, have some very fine sand, dip the thing in it, you know, like get the excess off, let it settle, paint it paint it black,
Paint it,
and then just Zenithal it with white. It's not that hard. Like,
yeah, just paint. You put the sand on there, you know, paint the base rim black. You're done. It's a sandy base. It's not hard to get to battle ready. It's like, and even with the Tyranids that I've been painting, that is a flat black with a Zenithal highlight and blue contrast paint. That is it.
We have a lot of people in my area that play with gray models, and they're, you know the type. Tiki, you were just like, you know, you let a certain thing fly, and you just get like a certain level of like people that start being like, they're gonna push the bounds as much as they can and take advantage of it.
Yeah, and I get that. Some people are like, oh, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. On real warfare, you cheat. I'm like, well, you know, spoiler, this isn't real. I've been there. You know, I was like, that's not what this is. You know, this is a game that's costing a lot of us our free. A lot of us, you know, work full time. like we have very little time for our hobbies, and so we're trying to make this time, and we're sharing it with you, and you're kind of just shitting all over it. That's why I think like the bare minimum of the rules, just to be respectworthy. We talked about them, you know, shower, wear deodorant, you know, be respectful, ask before you handle someone's property. And then also, you know, if you're showing up to a place where the table's decorated, there's already terrain, doesn't matter who's providing it, and you know your enemy's model's painted, you should at least show up with a painted army, or let them know ahead of time, be like, hey, like a quarter of my army is gray. Is that okay? Is that really going to bother you? At least let them know ahead of time. But just to pretend like it's automatically okay, that just bugs the piss out of me.
And it's one thing, like if you're testing out an army, or you're, you know, it's not a serious game or anything like that, or you're even proxying something like, hey, you know, new rules came out, or this new model just came out and I want to try it. Just, you know, talk to your opponent. Most of the time, people are going to be cool with that. And that's fine. Or say, hey, I just got this army and I really want to play it. They're, you know, they're primed, or they're gray, I just finished building them. Then that's one thing. But when you know, like somebody shows up 2 or 3 times with gray minis, and you know good and well that they're just doing it because they don't feel like that they have to, that's disrespectful to everybody else that's like putting in the time and the effort. I mean, on one hand, it's an art, and you respect somebody else's effort and their art and all that. And even if you're not a painter, it doesn't have to be gorgeous. It's not going into the Louvre. It's just, you know, you put in the same amount of effort as everybody else.
Yeah, look at my models. Will make you feel better. Trust me. I literally just slapdash. Yeah, contrast paint's amazing, by the way. That stuff is, holy crap. That made the hobby a lot better for me. I'm a huge fan of contrast paint.
Yeah, contrast, especially the 2.0 contrast line, like Citadel knocked it out of the park. Like they were like, as soon as Army Painter got a bit uppity, and they were like, oh, we have something, and immediately games were like Citadel, like their eyes with the meme like turned red, and were like, you think you're the best miniature paint company in the world? Think again, bucko. Like, honestly, I think that the contrast line has saved Citadel paints, because for a while, a lot of people were moving away from GW and moving a lot more towards cheaper alternatives like Vallejo and AK. But like when contrast paint, especially when the 2.0 contrast paints released, so many people moved back to GW stuff, because a lot of them are fucking magic in a bottle, especially the 2 yellow ones, the Imperial Fist and the new Bad Moons yellow, like for contrast, is holy shit. It's like fucking magic in a bottle, dude.
And you can even run contrast paint through an airbrush. I mean, that alone is magic. I mean, you gotta thin it a little bit, but it's like instant glow on like if you got Tesla coils or whatever. It's beautiful, because when you thin that contrast out, there's so much pigment in it. It's just, it's gorgeous. And for me, I use a mix of paints. Like I use I'm a big fan of golden. It's like an artist paint, but they make a golden high flow, and it's kind of made to be used out of an airbrush. And a lot of my base coats, I'll use the golden paints, and then for detail stuff, or if I'm using like contrast, I'll use GW contrast paints. And then I always add a fluorescent highlight to my different colors, so because I like playing around with black lights, and it's cool for me. Like my Tyranids, their eyes they're started out with a golden brand red, and then I highlighted them with a Vallejo game color fluorescent orange. So when the black light comes on, their eyes glow, the magazines and the coils and their weapons glow. Same thing with my towel. They're like Tron towel. Instead of like panel lining, I use the fluorescent paints and kind of a pen wash, and whenever the blacklight comes on, all the the seam lines between the armor plates and all that glow. There's a lot of cool stuff that you can do that's seriously not difficult, because I'm not a great painter. It's just like, it's easy. Why wouldn't you do it? I mean, take pride in your minis, take pride in your army, and, you know, let other people take pride in theirs without, you know, feeling like, oh, well, I wasted all this time. If somebody can just paint and play with gray models, then why am I going to sit around and paint for 10 hours just to get my army battle ready? I mean, it's a respect thing.
It's almost goes back to like respect your opponent's time, because if your opponent is going to take the time to like go out of the way to spend tens of hours like painting their army, like it's only fair that like you should put the bare amount of effort in to have your have the basic amount of immersion for you and your opponent.
Yeah, man, it's, to me, like, I don't just paint the models for me. Of course I do it for me, but also, like, I feel like if I can come in with some really cool minis and really well painted and interesting basing, and I'm a lore guy through and through, so there's like fluff reasons for all this stuff. Like the Channel Tyranid army, the High Fleet Forces, they're a splinter fleet from the Battle of Macragge, so they're behemoth, and they went into an area where all the light was red from the Karen stars, and they tried, like, they adapted optically to keep their behemoth colors in their current light. But when they came out of that area back into white light, it's like mottled white and gray and blue. And I researched what colors would give the behemoth color scheme under pure red light, and that's why I painted them that way. So that if you have a fluff reason for why you're, you know, say you got green Marines, but they're Blood Angels, I mean, just make up something on the spot. Say, oh, they're a successor chapter. Now, GW's kind of walked back your Marine color does this thing in the rules with the way that they've set up the battle forces, like the Gladius Task Force and all that stuff, where any color Marine can play any style. But previously, I mean, if you had, say, if you like me and you have Raven Guard, that came with certain rules, and then when you wanted to proxy, like, if you wanted to try out a game as Blood Angels, Dark Angels, or, you know, Salamanders, then you'd have to talk to somebody about that first, because your Marines aren't the right color. But I mean, it's a respect thing, and it's a respect in the game itself. I mean, the spectacle of it, you're spending this much time playing this game, you don't want it to just be like, oh, I'm playing with army men I got at the dollar store. No. This is a much grander thing that we're doing. Make it thematic, make it make you feel something. So that's why I take time to the best of my ability, paint my minis and make them awesome, give them a story, give them somewhere that they're supposed to be, like, you know, keep their basing consistent, and they're from this battlefield or XYZ. Now, you don't have to do that. That's a lot. I mean, that's kind of my style, doing a lot. But on the other hand, it's not hard to come up with a simple reason why, you know, your models are X color, or this is the world that they're on. So they're on a sand world, like a desert world. That's why their bases are just covered with PVA and sand and black rimmed, you know?
Yeah, totally. Like, it's fine if like a few models, like they're like, either you got an eBay haul and you just don't feel like rebasing, or like, at least at the moment, like that's fine to have like a couple models where their basing doesn't match, or like there's a little bit of mismatching here or there, like that's fine. Like, but like if the whole, like, there's no common theme with the army, like my guard, for example, they're part of the Ultramar Aquila. They're a PDF style guard army. Like with like having multiple themings with bases is actually like a bit thematic. Like maybe having one like a couple squads where it's purely a desert base like looking, and then the rest of them they're like in the water or like close to a beach kind of thing. Like
having variations in the terrain is pretty cool. I mean, with my guys, they're in a fungal forest, so they all have different like little mushrooms and stuff on the bases.
Well, that answered my question on what you guys, had as like the bare minimum for showing up to play. Same thing with tournament. I think we heard a story recently about, guys showed up to play in a tournament, and his walkers, I guess, or his knights weren't fully based. His opponent was, and he ended up losing to his opponent, not because of tactics, but because his army wasn't fully painted. That's pretty rough. I'm not gonna lie. If that happened.
there is a small thing that I do wanna touch on, just real quick. And I mentioned it to the guys earlier, but One Piece. Specifically, which we've talked about anime a little bit on the podcast before, but I recently binged the live action One Piece show over this last weekend, and it's good. It's surprisingly good. It finally broke the curse of live action anime being bad. It's a very solid. It's not the best TV show I ever watched. I mean, it's still One Piece, so it's not the best thing you'll ever watch, depending on who you are. But like, it's solid TV. So much of the live action is. They just get so many things right, and from my understanding, Oda was very the author and mangaka for One Piece. For those who don't know, Oda was very involved with the production process of One Piece, of the One Piece live action series on Netflix. But like casting was a big thing, and there were race swaps like for a lot of characters, but like I fucking barely noticed, and like and a lot of it was like for the better. Like so many like accents. It's very, because the dub for One Piece is very like, everyone has an English accent, like, of course, because like and some people don't, like it's very weird, but like it makes sense with the world of One Piece that like it's an entire world of islands. There's not like a continent that really exists. Like everyone is scattered. There's not really gonna be like one set like dialect like that everyone speaks universally. Like there's in so much attention to detail. It is and the reason why I think talking about the live action One Piece is important for general nerd and geek culture is because I think the reason why this broke the curse is because of how respectful and how reverent this show treats its source material. Something that has kind of been lacking in a lot of adaptations in the last few years, like, and just in general. So I think with this, with the One Piece show being so popular that it's still trending on third on Netflix right now after like 2 weeks. And it's like it broke Netflix for like a day. Like, I think goes to show that like don't change what isn't broken, change what you need to change for being an adaptation, but you don't have to change. And I think this applies to Warhammer too, because of the show that Henry Cavill is going to be working on, is that there's a reason why this property is beloved the way it is. And sure, taking creative liberties and taking and changing things that it fits the medium that you're transferring it to, that makes sense. But completely ignoring the source material is where most of the time these live action or these adaptations really fail. But with the live action One Piece show, the things that they change are pacing. They speed up a lot of stuff, and they cut out things that honestly just never really mattered that much to the story arcs that they're covering, and they put in the stuff that they add in addition is giving emphasis to characters that never that either will be important later on, and it's important for, and they never got the treatment that they probably should have gotten early in the story because Oda didn't think that far ahead when he first started. But you know, keeping this thing fully spoiler free, it's worth watching. It's an 8.5 out of 10. I recommend that everyone like who's even remotely an anime fan check out the live action One Piece. And even if you're not an anime fan, I would say it's worth checking out. And if you're a One Piece fan, this is a must watch. You should watch it just because of the stuff that it adds. There will be things for you to enjoy and appreciate. Just the attention to detail and set design and like costume design, and just seeing like how a lot of these actors have interpreted playing their role is something worth watching. Please go and watch and support this and show Netflix and Hollywood and all of these other creative mediums. This is the kind of adaptations we want to see.
Not the Dragon Ball Z live action.
Hold on real quick. As someone who's like adjacent to the industry, and I mean that with no offense. So what's the legality of this thing? Because this is a live action of an anime, and I'm assuming, not trying to be racist, I'm assuming a lot of the actors are probably Asian. Are they not American? So is this not covered under the whole SAG-WAFA union strike thing?
No, so like this is more of a Hollywood style production. So it was I think it was mostly filmed in South Africa, but like the actors are from all over the place. We're talking England, Ireland, fucking Brazil, like.
So they're not part
from South Africa. We have a bunch of actors from America too. Like one of the actors is they're ethnically, like the guy who plays Zoro is ethnically Japanese, but I think he's from America or from Canada, just by the way he speaks and carries himself. And it fits Zoro very well, I might add. And he's the weakest, I think he's the weakest of the main characters in terms of like casting and acting from the actor, and he still does a great job. Like, and he's the weakest out of the whole cast. In some of the cast is even a slight improvement over, and like taking some creative liberties to make the characters more palatable in general. Not really a spoiler, but Usopp in One Piece, he's fucking annoying. I'm just gonna be straight, he's fucking annoying. They go out of their way to make the character a lot more palatable just in general, and it's very appreciated what they I very much appreciate what they're trying to do with Usopp in the live action. And a lot of the casting, it's very obvious that Oda had a very tight hand on who was cast and who was not in what role, because even the characters that don't sound how you would expect, they just carry themselves like One Piece characters. It's hard to describe unless you've watched One Piece, but the guy who plays Luffy, not the best acting in the world, but man, he just captures the energy of the character to a T. To the point where I can't help but beam and just be like, yep, that's Luffy. Like, that's Luffy through and through, goofiness and all, and just like, this is who this character is, and this actor just gets it. Same thing goes for the actress for Nami. phenomenal casting choices just across the board for the most part. Like the visual effects are great. Again, the CGI, it's still TV CGI. Like it's not the greatest. Like it's not Game of Thrones CGI like later on, but like it's like it's better CGI than a lot of movies. And it has like this show has, I think it had like $163 million budget. Like, which, to give some perspective, the recent Guardians of the Galaxy movie, I believe, was like more than twice that budget. And you know, there's 8 episodes in this season of this first season of One Piece, and each episode is a fucking hour. And going back to the time and money that they've invested, they've spent their money very wisely and their time even wiser. The story arc and like the general time frame that they cover in the anime, I don't know for the manga. It's been a while since I've read it, but at least that part. But for the anime, they cover over 54 episodes in what for normal TV time would be 16. And they improve upon some stuff too, like while they're at it, and add in extra things. Like, so not only are they making the pacing better and fixing that, they're also adding things that add to One Piece and make it a better experience to watch. Like, I could almost not be more impressed, like, to be honest. Like, again, go and watch it. Show Hollywood, show Netflix. We want to see more adaptations like this to get this kind of treatment.
Sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah, sounds like the opposite of what they did with Cowboy Bebop. They got one of the characters pretty decent, but they just screwed they screwed the pooch in different ways. And then they let the actor, not all of them, but they let like one of the actors be really shitty towards the fans. I was like, that's who buys your stuff. Like, why would you do that? Like, it doesn't make any sense. But whatever.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't heard of this live action Cowboy Bebop. It doesn't sound like it ever happened as far as I'm aware. You know what I mean?
It's a shame. They had a lot of good talent on board, and they tried, but it just doesn't have the same. I think that's the other thing too. Is, oh man, I don't want to sound like that guy. I don't know if they knew what they were going for, because space western it's hard. It's hard to get right without it being goofy as all hell. You know, like the first season of Mandalorian, nailed it. Firefly, nailed it. Cowboys vs. Aliens, tried, missed it. You know, like, space western is a very tough genre to do well, you know, and I think they didn't know that that's what they were making, because that's what Cowboy Bebop, Outlaw Star, and Trigun all are. They're basically the space westerns.
Now, the difference, I would say, between, like, pretty much all live-action versions of, like, anime that I've ever seen compared to the One Piece live-action here is this is an anime. And I mean that wholeheartedly. This is an anime in terms of its feel, its aesthetic, its look, and I mean that in terms of its boons and its flaws in a good way. Like it's goofy, it's over the top. The main character yells out his fucking stupid attack names like he does in the anime, and that will put a bunch of people off. It will sound goofy. But to the people,
testicles.
yeah, but the people that appreciate that and like understand what anime is, you will appreciate seeing it here in live action. Just to see it in live action, it's nice. Like, and yeah, it's goofy, but like in One Piece, that it's goofy. One Piece is goofy. Anime is over the top and goofy. That's part of its charm, and this show gets that. This show is an anime for all intents and purposes, down to the way the script feels. Like, barring like a couple like creative Western liberties with some of the jokes, but even then, like, they still have like a bit of like an anime like twinge to it. Like And some of the and it's like some of the stuff they do a lot more tastefully. Like Sanji's a flirt, but in the manga and in the anime, it's to the point where it gets a bit obnoxious and a bit creepy. Like, but in the live action, yeah, he's a flirt, but it comes across more natural and more in line with how the character acts every other second when they're not gawking at a woman. Like, it just feels better. It's not distracting while still being a homage to the original and still staying within character. Like, that's something I appreciate. Another thing is, like, in anime, there's a trope where the main character, like, especially for shonen, is always hungry and they love food. Like, and there's just these eating scenes, which they cover that in this show and they make jokes about it, but they don't dwell on it like how they do in anime normally, like where there's this whole like 5-minute scene of like the crew like eating food all goofily, or like Luffy's like full belly like inflates to like triple the size. No, he just eats a lot of food, and he's like they show up to a restaurant, first thing, like they're like, well, what do we do now? And first thing he says is, let's eat! Like, you know, still staying within spirit and respecting the source material, and like, but like, not only does it help with pacing, it just feels more natural, which that's also another thing that this adaptation does very well. Is it goes for it plays into its strengths in that it's a TV series. It's a series, almost like a mini series, not really like, it's not anime. They don't have the same ability with animation to show off, so they have to be a lot more sparing with how they use their effects and stuff. And they're very wise in when and how they use that stuff. Like, they use it for what they need it to, and they for pacing and for budgetary reasons and for time, like they skim up. We don't have the 5-minute scene of they eating. We see Luffy have like giant plates of food while the Straw Hats are talking about what they're doing. So they're moving a plot along while still having the visual gag and the joke without dwelling on it. Like, that's something it's just better for the show, and it's just a very smart and intelligent thing to do in an adaptation when you have a limited amount of time and budget to work with.
All right, well, that's just about covered on today's Munitorum Breakroom. As always, the shameless plug of, if you like the video and you're a grown adult, you know, press the like button. If you want to see more of it and you're a grown adult, press the subscribe button. It's kind of weird we got to cover these things. But on a side note, I actually have recently hit 150 subscribers on my channel, which is kind of cool. When I hit 250, I'm going to actually start doing live streams, because I have a pile of shame I got to work on anyway. So it'll be a paint and chat. People can drop in questions. I'll try and answer them while I paint. And then when I hit 500 subscribers, then I'm actually going to open up my Etsy store, which I'll be selling a lot more physical stuff for your D&D games, handwritten letters with actual wax seals. There'll be health potion bottles, maybe even like candles scented towards certain things, so you get like the full gaming experience. I'm a big theme whore. When I play D&D, I like to set the lights, music, that whole thing. So it's gonna be my chance to try and help other people do that as well. But other than that, man, hopefully you guys liked it. And if you have any other topics you want to hear, man, please do drop it in the comment down below. We really do like that interaction. But looks like I'm out here. And does anyone else know where we're supposed to report to after Chow? I think we're supposed to make it down to the hangar deck.
Did the Ogren like use the wrong bathroom for the hangar deck?
Oh no.
Death, pass out the gas masks.
Okay.